Okay, welcome everybody to day 6 of the 12 days of Christmas. That means I'm like officially halfway there. So, yes, if you can believe it or not, we do this for 12 days, and I love every single second of it. Now, for those of you, because tonight's guest, of course, I knew was going to bring plenty of new people to the platform, which I'm so thankful for. I don't know about the rest of you, but if you did not get a chance to tune into Linda's 20-year anniversary Zoom lecture, presentation, gala, whatever it was amazing. And so you guys know quite what you have in store for you this evening. I
Okay,
will admit,
Tabitha, fess up right now. You were multitasking, right?
no. All right, so this is what you guys are. I was just about to fess up, ma'am. I was just about to take claim that nobody has an excuse for not being part of it because I was doing it while I was driving home after an all-day trip to the dedication of fiber. I got in my car first thing in the morning, drove 5 hours up to a fiber training slash workshop networking business thing. Talked to cashmere goats of all, and basically just got in my car and turned right back around home. And I did. I had her on, and she was so disappointed at first because she thought I couldn't see the pictures. And I said, well, I could, but it wasn't huge, and I was being very careful. Unlike another time I was trying to binge watch another dear friend of mine who was doing Vlogmas and almost ran off the road, in which I shut Kimberly McAlinden down and I said, I'm sorry, girl, I'm going to have to catch up on your Vlogmas another time. So I very safely managed and even commented that I was so excited to be able to be part of it, to be mentioned. I won't swell her head right off the start, so I'll let her sit and simmer on that. What?
Nobody under the age of 18 is hearing that, like, you like Zoom and drive at the same time, right? Like, we don't have to worry about sending out that message, do we?
It's not illegal.
Well, it should be.
It's
Continue, Tabitha.
I
Continue.
have ears.
Continue. Go ahead.
All right, so guys, again, I am so excited. And if you liked the banter with Kevin and Ray and myself back on the second of the 12 Days of Christmas, you're going to be in for a treat tonight. So Linda and I go a long way back, which I'm so honored for, of course. So, couple of things. For those of you that are new, I might say, hey, if you're a fiber enthusiast, that's really what the 12 Days of Christmas is all about. Honestly, it has nothing to do with the holiday. It was a mere attempt at my having some sort of whimsical theme. Many people in our fiber industry do these things we call advents. God bless them. I am not that pre-planned at all. For anyone who knows me, I'm proud to admit it. So these people put together these boxes of which, many fiber enthusiasts get them ahead of time. They pre-order them ahead of time. They're opening one each day, to be able to kind of count down the days till Christmas. Yeah, no, this is something that I pulled basically out of my pants, shall we say, 3 years ago when I had the idea, but I was like, oh, I don't know if anyone's going to like it. And then literally at the last hour, I was like, I'm doing it. And here we are 3 years later, and our numbers are increasing. People are enjoying it for so many different reasons. So it was really just an opportunity to have a theme and to say, God bless me, I am going to Zoom for 12 nights, and I am going to spend post-Christmas through New Year's with anybody who wants to be here with me. And lo and behold, what I found is that so many people do enjoy it because, right, maybe some of us, like tonight, this is like amateur nights. We don't go out anymore. I am proud to say. Now, I am going to have to stay up to midnight probably because I'm housing a 16-year-old from Kansas who is probably expecting some New York City event in which we've got things planned for the rest of the evening. But outside of that, I usually will find myself to retire well before, and I certainly don't find myself on the road. So for all of you who are going to be enjoying just a little bit of your New Year's Eve with us, I am so excited for that. If you enjoy tonight's banter and you want to tune in, the sessions are all recorded and then they are uploaded to my YouTube channel. You can find it bright and early tomorrow morning. So we have all the other days that are on there. And just to give you a little tidbit, it's not all fiber related. I am a shepherd, shepherdess, llama farmer, llama lady, whatever you want to call me. And I'm a professional shearer, obviously a fiber enthusiast. So I have so many different people that I come across, and I purposely curate these 11 guests to be varied across the board. So we've had everything from knitwear designers to podcasters to somebody who is involved in Newfoundland pony rescue or conservation, I should say. Last night was my dear friend that I shear her 2 big, huge sheep, and she has a care farm. So she's a grief counselor, uses her animals for mental health advocacy. And then prior to that, I actually had a high schooler who did her Girl Scout project that involved my llamas going to camp, if you can believe that. So it's just going to keep rolling from here. Bear with me for just a couple of things for anybody who might want to continue to enjoy this. And for those of you that are my lifers, as I like to call it, but maybe you're just jumping in now. So throughout the rest of this week until January 6th, anybody is welcome to utilize the code TDOC, that's 12 Days of Christmas, TDOC 2450. Now, of course, that's going to seem ridiculous as of tomorrow, but we started this in 2024 and we're going to wrap it up in 2025. Now, that's going to get you 50% off my skincare line. For those of you that are new to me as a shearer of sheep, as well as all sorts of fiber critters, I have a lanolin-based skincare line that is all natural, and I will say it is my life this time of year especially. So if you've not used it before, it's a great way to get in on it at 50% off, and that code is my gift to you. In addition, we've got some other things that are happening. If you are a knitter or a fiber enthusiast, if you take a look at this cute little capelet behind me, or if you take a look at that wreath that's up in the tree, those are beautiful curls from Cotswold sheep. Now, that also brings me full circle. Again, so many of my guests tie into one another. Linda, if you remember, the issue that I finally appeared in Wild Fibers also featured Cotswold sheep. I totally forgot all about that. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, so many of my guests have intertwined in this season. It's been amazing. So Cotswold sheep are a rare breed, beautiful, gorgeous curls. And my friend, who is a knitwear designer who was on with us earlier, has come up with a way to actually knit these locks into your garments. And we're doing an online class. We reopened up that registration. Erin will drop information in the chat so I don't have to waste too much time on that. Or you can always reach out if you're curious about that. We also have some drops later in the week, but I want to tell you about this basket because it's also going to help us to lead into some other things that Linda and I are going to talk about. So I came up with the idea that throughout this week, each of my guests probably have something to contribute, in which at the end, we have a beautiful, what I call keepsake basket. So there's something that each guest has donated, and there's going to be one lucky winner of this basket that essentially there'll be a little bit of something from everybody to help remind you of these 12 days of Christmas. Now, you could just be part of tonight. You could just purchase some skincare and never look at me again and still potentially win this basket, which kudos to you. So far what we have donated is a free workshop, online workshop from my friend designer Kimberly McAlinden. Kevin and Ray from Needles at the Ready podcast have donated 2 yarns that they have dyed along with 2 enamel pins. We then also have a sweatshirt, which is merch from my friend Allie from Grateful Acres. So there's a sweatshirt in there from her. There is another sweatshirt from the Newfoundland. Have you ever been to Newfoundland, Linda?
I most certainly have.
See, all ties in. So the Newfoundland ponies, which we learned, there's actually now only 600 of them in the world. And this one client of mine who's up in New Hampshire, so I'm close-ish to you when I'm there, close-ish. They're now involved in helping to breed and conserve this particular pony. So there's a sweatshirt and there's an amazing backpack great knitter's bag, backpack, very, very durable. I love it. I want to steal this idea for merch. So that's in there. Then from my dear high school student who's a Girl Scout, there's 4 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. And I know half of my knitters.
Yes.
See, if I just add wine to this basket, people are going to buy everything I own just for cookies and wine. I'm telling you, I know it. I knew it. So yes, you get 4 and wait, of your choice, right? So wait, Linda, which is your favorite?
Thin Mints.
You know, that is a popular one. I got to go for the Samoas. I'm a coconut girl, caramel, not so much of the chocolate, but put that all together, stick them in the freezer.
What's the chocolate peanut butter one?
Is that the Do-si-dos?
I don't know. It's and the reason I don't know the name is because I can't buy them because I can't bring them in the house. But those are actually my favorite.
Oh, well, that's exactly. I was just about to say the Samoas, because they're probably fancier. There's not as many of them as like the Thin Mints. That is single serving for me if I really want to indulge. So, all right. And then lo and behold, I feel like there's something I'm missing, but when we get to Linda, so for many of you, maybe you already have this book. If you don't, you need to. And if you don't win this basket, you need to go out and grab one. So we do have one of the Twisted Tales that Linda has generously donated to the basket, along with a 6-month subscription to the Sunday Read. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. Now, the last thing I'm going to say, and then we're going to move on, I promise. If none of this interests you, that is totally fine. However, if you love this woman, last year, her and I, after the 12 Days of Christmas, wanted to continue to work together again. So we came up with a lecture series that we did on Zoom. There were 3, and then people loved it so much that we added a 4th. So this year, we're like, why wait? So out of the gate, we now have another 4-part lecture series on Zoom that we've decided to do again together. So strategically, to your advantage, we opened up registration at the start of the 12 Days of Christmas. So again, even if there's nothing else that I am offering here that is of interest to you, we hope that you might think to join us for this lecture series. So for all 4 of them, it's just $35. Linda has graciously allowed us to record it and make that available for just 1 week afterwards, because she might be doing these presentations for other guilds, but they are all launching with me, correct?
Absolutely. All brand new. Can I just interrupt for a second?
Please. What are you asking for?
In case somebody of here like wins the basket and they're one of those few people that really aren't interested in it, if they love Linda, they'll send me the Girl Scout cookies. Okay. I don't care if they keep the bag and the shirt and all that other stuff. Okay. But yeah.
I thought you were going to say, like at our llama conferences, when somebody wins the money, we do these 50-50 raffles. Now, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because Linda often is speaking at our llama conferences. And yes, we have llama conferences. And there's always a 50-50 raffle. And somebody, right, will win it. And they're like, oh, no, I'm going to take that and donate it back. And I'm like, you fool, take that money and run. So I thought you were going to say, if somebody wins the basket and they're not interested, you know, they can pass it on to the next person. No, she's like, just send me the damn cookies.
No, this is the time of year. It's the spirit of giving, right? This is the last day of the spirit of giving, so to speak. So yeah, give the cookies to Linda.
All right, you guys heard it here. After that, you know, maybe I should send a disclaimer. I'll put a little note in the basket just for shits and giggles. I'll be like, if you really don't happen to want the cookies, send them to Linda.
Send them to Linda.
Anyway, I appreciate all of you that are kind of new to my calamity. I hope you'll get some laughs and some smiles out of tonight, as well as, of course, some information, because many of you do not need an introduction to this woman. However, both of us would agree, I hope, that there are people on here that have no idea who I am, and I love that. Please feel free to let me know, drop it in the chat. And at the same time, my whole reason for also creating this platform was to be able to bring people to the table that maybe you've not heard of before. Now, I know many of you did not know of Linda last year. Now you're all on board with it. That's why you're here. But if there are any newer people, because for instance, from some of my earlier guests, we've gotten some new people on board this year, and maybe you do not know Linda Cortright of Wild Fibers. And honestly, do not be embarrassed. We'd love to see that in the chat. Let us know, are you new to her? Because that's what this is all about. That is why I do this, so that people have a chance to learn and enjoy and expand their fiber horizons, if you will. So you know what? I thought of something. All right. So I was going to say, well, how about this? While I was getting ready, I thought of another thing that we need to talk about, because of course, with my recent, loss of 2 goats, right? I thought about that too. That's a whole nother thing that, you were the first person I thought to reach out to be like, hey, you've got to educate me. And I'd love to make sure we tie that in too, because my lifers, they know my Mina is here by herself, which mind you, I've not gotten a single return phone call from 3 people now. I'm like, I want to buy a goat, damn it. This is the time of year, I'm sure not many people are knocking on your door, and I need some goats. But let's, I'll be anxious to add that in so that people learn what I've learned in terms of what I'm looking to add here to our educational fiber farm, in all seriousness. So I don't know, with that, no introduction needed. This woman is amazing. She has traveled the world. Okay, now I'll blow up your head, because you have always been like, Linda from Wild Fibers, and I only knew you originally from coming and speaking at our very serious, llama conferences that we put on. You were always a keynote speaker. When I was, just a wee young girl starting this, I just always dreamed of being involved, in what you did, in all seriousness, but everything was always international. And then we kind of got to be friendly a little bit there for a while. And I don't know. I mean, then you turn, things changed, everybody pivots. And then next thing you know, I believe I was in the first issue, of which you were then introducing more domestic things, even if it wasn't the first. I mean, I know you switched because it was always international. I believe, right? To the best of my knowledge.
Oh, it's always had both.
Okay.
Always, but certainly a preponderance of international stories. Absolutely true.
Okay.
But yeah, no.
So, well, it was a highlight for me to finally be involved, although I did not get the amazing woman herself to my farm. So she still owes me that trip. But that's okay.
Let it go, Tabitha. Let it go, honey.
That's really funny, because in our many conversations, I know you are remiss that you did not get here. Not because she wants to see my llamas or my goats or my sheep, but why?
Because I want to see Piggity and Pansy.
Hands down. She doesn't even want to see me. She wants.
Yeah, in the world of hierarchy, it's Piggity up, Tabitha, Piggity Pansy. That's how it goes.
Well, that's all right. So I'll take it for what I can. But, again, honestly, it's been a great joy to also be able to call you a friend. And I appreciate the conversations we have, the work we've done together, just mutually beneficial. There's very few people that can talk as much as I can. So, and there's very few people that can make me shut up. So, most of the time, I usually just sit back, which I will, I promise everybody, and I'll let her take over somewhat. But I listen to you completely gobsmacked, and I know everyone else does. So thank you so much again for being willing to join me for New Year's Eve to help us bring in 2025. And I'm so excited to see what you have to share with us tonight. Oh, okay, your turn.
Were you just pausing for air there, or was that a full stop sentence?
It was a full stop. It was a full stop. I just can't contain my enthusiasm. This is me, right? I just can't. I can't shut it down.
I will say, Tabitha, you really do need to go to India because I'm not even like bush league Indian talker. Okay. My Indian friends can talk circles around me. In fact, earlier today, I was messaging Stupkis, who a name that certainly my people would recognize. And he literally, he's 49 years old. And he says, "Thank you for your time. I know I've been gossiping a lot." And we would never, most men would not use the word gossip, certainly in reference to themselves.
Right.
And we'd been talking business, but it's also Losar. It is the new year. And so he's there. It is their new year. Losar does not, it just happens to be falling on December 31st. It is a lunar determined holiday.
Okay.
I don't get what that is. Like it's the new year. It's not. Um, it can be late as November on into February, but yeah. So go to India. You're going to have to like brush up. You're going to have to go into training if you
I got it. I will take it on.
promise. So no, I'm going to say it is fun to do this. Tabitha and I both enjoy each other. We have many similarities. I do not box, nor do I own pigs. Um, but we also both really love our jobs. We love our jobs, and we are really blessed that our passion for fibers is what supports us, and that puts us in a very, very small margin of this market. And I think that part of my desire to do this is that, yeah, New Year's Eve is a time to celebrate, and why not celebrate it with the people who have made our lives possible, right?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
God knows there was such a list of callers for me to go out tonight,
Come on now.
It really
But
was.
wait. I hear, right? You would probably not make the best date this evening because dancing, you can only do certain steps now.
Right.
Yeah.
So much so that I now just do
Forward.
chair yoga. That's so embarrassing. Do you know how embarrassing that is?
Chair dance.
In the model in the chair yoga, okay, now I'm just that model in the chair yoga who I'm like attempting to, mimic, she has at least 20 years on me, okay? And she's, pulling her ankle behind her neck and, doing all the. Can you put your arm behind your back and then with your other hand, and then
I
with
could
your
do it
other
one
hand,
way.
touch your fingers?
Wait.
Okay, I can do that on one side,
I was
and
just
then
gonna
on the
say,
other side, it's
oh,
like, oh yeah, it's this incredible. So
you're
there's
losing
that.
an arm for God's sakes because you're green. Do you understand
Thank you.
what I mean?
I could do that on the dance floor New Year's Eve.
Isn't it sad though how we lose our mobility? Honestly. All right, this is going to be the last thing. I had to ice skate yesterday. Now, the only reason why I thought of you was because I keep forgetting it was New Year's Eve. And again, I have a 16-year-old from Kansas visiting me, and getting her to New York City was what we had planned. And then I had to remember how to ice skate. And then I managed, which I was quite impressed with myself, honestly, until I then had to continue to walk blocks and blocks and blocks. And thankfully, she petered out, and we were like, I need to get home to Zoom. We got to catch a 3 o'clock train. Let me tell you, I could not sit down fast enough. That I've learned there are limitations. I can box and I can go sideways and as fast as I need to, but whew, that ice skating thing just about nearly knocked me out.
There you go. There you
All
go.
right. I'm not really sure what other rabbit holes we can go down. I'm sure there's plenty more.
So I'll go down the ice skating rabbit. So I skated for 14 years.
That's right.
My mother came in second in nationals in ice
You
dancing, skated at Madison Square Garden.
get out. I mean, I
And
knew ice skated. I remember this now, but I
yeah,
don't think I knew that.
and so I skated, from a young age and loved it. Absolutely loved it. And so So for those of you who may have been watching ice skating from long ago, and I do mean long ago, Dick Button was the ABC commentator. And my mother had skated with Dick Button. And soon after I moved to Maine, and I really don't remember the sequence of events, but I connected with Dick Button and he came out to my farm. Now I refer to my
No.
farm, which is affectionately called Grumble Goat Farm. I refer to it as my little hovel on the hill, which is probably a pretty apt description. Great location, and that's where it ends. In any case, here comes the august Dick Button out to my hovel on the hill, and I've tried to, prime him for this. But I have cashmere goats. So, and that actually was probably why he came out. And I'll never forget him walking around my farm 25, 30 years ago. And he says, "Oh, I'm rather underwhelmed." I wanted to say, and so am I, Dick. But I didn't because I knew my mother was watching from above. Just soured me a little bit, you know?
Well, you would have been one of those people, right? Because, there's always somebody at Rockefeller Center out there. The rest of us, there's the people shuffling along. Like, I
Holding
wait,
the rail.
for all of my lifers, I have yet to post the videos of Alex ice skating. Oh gosh, every time I watch them, I still crack up. I cannot, I got to get them up. But there was improvement, which was great. So, you have those. Let me also tell you now, they have these little, oh, Linda, they have penguins.
At Rockefeller Center?
Okay, not real ones, but I just thought of you because they have these little, like little plastic but strong penguins with little handles and little feet. And so that if you don't know how to ice skate, you hold on to the penguins. But now here's the thing. Apparently there's a height restriction.
I was just going to say, they have them
So
forever.
do not think you're coming to pretend you don't know how to skate just so you can hug a penguin. So I've got Alex, she's not that tall. And they're like, oh, no. The penguins are for little children. I'm like, okay, I get that. But then I saw this other kid that was maybe like 7, clearly could not skate. And they even told him he was too tall for the penguins. I'm like, come on, let him hang on to a damn penguin. But yes, they have penguins. So you hold on to the penguin and you shuffle around, right? So then there's those of us that are managing to look somewhat cool. Then there's always somebody like you. There's one lady out there gliding around. Then all of a sudden she starts to do, what is the thing when you put your leg out and then you pull it in and you go really fast?
It's called spinning.
Doesn't have a fancier name.
Depends on the kind of spin, but spinning will take care of it.
Okay, well, so she had to go out and do that. We're like, okay, yay. And then there's always a hotshot kid that clearly is like an ice hockey kid, and he's zipping in and out of everybody. But it was comical nonetheless. So there we go.
He's like the snowboarder. For those of us that still are on two skis,
Totally.
he's like that whippersnapper snowboarder that comes dipping
right
between your legs as you're going down the mountain.
Towhead sweatshirt. It was totally like snowboarder, ice hockey, something, like shaving the ice on you. We're like, all right, kid, we got it. I just want to stick my foot out and trip him. Anyway, oh my gosh. Thank God I didn't put mascara on tonight. Not that I do any night.
So let's just, I want to, because I'm excited that we're going to talk about wool, which means we're going to talk about penguins. Because I'm sure people are like going, why does she have penguins in the background? If this is
come on, anybody who knows you love penguins.
There is a theme amongst my Christmas presents this year, for sure. I actually have a little penguin that I just got from a dear friend a couple of days ago. So I'm going to just say that one of the amazing things that, traipsing around the world for the last 20 years in search of wild fibers has meant that I've searched out a lot of other things that I didn't expect to find. And one of them was penguins. And I've always had a thing for penguins. It goes back to a magazine cover in the 80s. but I had gone to the Falkland Islands, which held only one, there was only like one little sentence that followed Falkland Islands. War, 1982, somewhere in the South Atlantic. I just think I wasn't probably terribly globally aware back in 1982, if I'm to be honest. Probably looked it up on a map once, certainly didn't Google it. And when I had been talking to a gentleman that I had actually met in Kyrgyzstan back in 2006, who really just sources very exclusive high-end fiber from all over the world. He had talked about coming to the Falklands. And I thought, well, that's wild enough, right? I'll do that. And took me a while to get there because it takes a while. I mean, not only did it take me a while for the planning, it takes a while to get to the Falklands because you have to find yourself all the way down to it's not going to help you go to Argentina because the Argentinians won't let you fly from Argentina to the Falklands because they've still got an attitude, from 1982. So you've got to fly from Chile. So it probably takes the better part of 15 hours to get down to Chile, and then you've got to get on this hour-and-a-half flight over to the Falklands, where they have 500,000 sheep and about 3,000 people. Now that's a daunting statistic. 500,000, probably before the war, they actually had closer to 750,000 sheep. And it is not all of it is high quality. And that was part of what my trip was about, was going to people who have really done selective breeding. But the other reason was that they have 5 different kinds of penguins in
Hi.
Falklands, and the penguins behind me, and I would share my Girl Scout cookies with anybody that knows this breed that hasn't been to the Falklands or Antarctica with me. Throw it in the chat.
I don't even know that there was 5 breeds of
Oh,
penguins.
they're 19 actually, but they're 5, right? But they're 5. And what is unusual about these penguins, first of all, just talk about, no, wrong. Sorry, it sounds so adamant. Wrong.
Well,
No.
somebody's Googling now, so.
Well, so, but don't you love that chest puffed right out? Right, like chest to chest. Halt! Who goes there? Right? It's that perfect encounter. These are king penguins, and it is one of the few places, the other exception being Tierra del Fuego, or an island off the Strait of Magellan, where you can see kings without having to go to Antarctica. So, and actually it's South Georgia Island, not technically Antarctica, although there's some on the continent. And the king penguin was thought to be the largest breed of penguin. So they said, oh, these are much bigger than the gentoos, the rockhoppers, the Magellans, the Adelis, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to call these the king penguins. Now, mind you, like they hadn't already called them prince, or earl. We're going to call you king. And then as they ventured into Antarctica, they came across the emperor, right? The emperor penguin. And they chose emperors, well, we've got to make it somewhat bigger because the emperor penguin can stand almost 4 feet high. That's a tall. How big were those penguins at the skating rink? Yeah, so probably like 3 feet, not 4 feet. 4 feet's, 4 feet's getting
Yeah,
up.
4 feet's tall. No, they were probably like 3 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. No, 4 feet is a lot of penguin, and it's actually really difficult. Well, difficult. You don't take a casual trip to Antarctica, period. Most trips to Antarctica do not include getting to see kings or emperors because they're much farther in the peninsula. And so you can go to the Falklands, and not only do you get to see these tremendous, merino sheep and all that they've done to improve them, but then you can go to multiple colonies and see rock hoppers and, macaroni penguins, et cetera, et cetera. So
No,
the
wait, there's
kickoff, go ahead, what?
There's a macaroni penguin?
named absolutely after put a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. Absolutely named after Yankee, because macaronis have these bright, brilliant orange. I'm not sure if they're actually their eyebrows, but they come off. I mean, like this. Rockhoppers have sort of more modest ones, but when you see a macaronis, and that's exactly why they named the macaroni from the song.
That is so cool. Can I ask you a question, which probably is going to seem a little ignorant? So, of course, I think Antarctica and I think penguins because I think super cold. But I guess maybe for some reason or other, I really wasn't thinking about the Falklands in terms of that same type of climate.
Different penguins like
Okay.
different climates, and it also has to do with their nesting ground. So one of the big challenges we're having right now with the effects of climate change, particularly in Antarctica, is that you're getting gentoos. Gentoos will, and somebody did put gentoos in there, much, much smaller. Gentoos lay their eggs on bare ground. And because there's been an increase of snowfall, which you think, oh, maybe that's good. Actually, no, because that means there's enough moisture. It's actually warm enough to snow. You know, if it's too cold, it won't snow. So now you've got these traditional colonies, rooks, and the gentoos are laying their eggs in the snow or close thereto, and they're not surviving. So we're starting to see huge die-offs. At the same time, also because of the change in the habitat, you're seeing other penguins that don't have any ground, left whatsoever. But don't forget, there are penguins in the Galapagos. They're equatorial. They're all cute. They're all cute, right? So, but yeah, I think last year, in the lectures last year, I had talked about that symbiotic relationship between the merino sheep in southern New Zealand and the fairy penguins, whereby initially when these people developed this farm, they thought, okay, it had always been a penguin rookery, and there'd always been sheep, and until they got around to really fencing off pastures, etc., the two cohabitated. And when they finally fenced the sheep away from the penguins, because the penguins would go trotting out to sea every day, they realized that the penguins started having a higher mortality rate. They thought, well, why is that happening? And it's because as the sheep were traipsing through that same ground that the penguins were using, one, traipsing down the ground meant they were packing down the grass. So it was easier for the little fairy penguins to walk along. They weren't exerting as much energy. And the other thing is by trapping down the grass, they also were helping to eliminate some of the insect and bug life, which the stoats, the mustelets, feed off of. And those mustelets are the same ones that will either eat penguin eggs and in some cases eat baby penguins. So the sheep were actually helping conserve the fairy penguins. Amazing story,
Well, and it's just all of the things that you don't think about. I mean, why would we? Of course, if we're not there. But even like you said, the people in the community and the culture, you don't think about, how animals live together in the most amazing ways, unbeknownst to us, right?
Right, right. And because so much of what we do in this country has been so Americanized for generations before us. And so the great gift of, wild fibers has been, forgive me for saying this with due respect to American farmers, I feel like a lot of times I'm like, okay, so this is how the pros do it. I felt that way when I went into my first nomadic camp. And I would watch a man or a woman, typically a woman, you know, in charge of 300, 400, 500 cashmere goats without a dog to help herd. And she's herding them across the open landscape. And I'm gonna just call out Steph Scott because I saw she put a cashmere goat in her background. I immediately saw that when she signed in, and I know she took that picture from the trip this summer. So yeah, there you go. I've got penguins, and she's the one with promoting cashmere. But yeah, I think the first time I saw that, and not just the first time, I'm always amazed at how in tune they are with their animals, as are many Americans. As I say, please no disrespect. But yeah, it's their lifeblood.
Well, and I thought you were going to go in the direction of saying, which you're probably too kind to not say, we just kind of get in the way, right?
Sometimes. And I think also, we have such an academic training as a rule, right? Don't we default to book learning for so many things? I mean, I know before my cashmere goats arrived, I was like, I want to get a book on how to raise cashmere goats. I would have been much better off had the opportunity presented itself to spend 3 months with a farmer of almost any description. And I think that's actually where Temple Grandin, and I know she's a voice within the llama community, and for those of you excuse me, out there who've never heard of her, please do look her up.
Yeah.
Temple Grandin has brought that enlightened perspective to domesticated animal awareness and communication, that I think was very much needed. And I think people have, perhaps changed their views a little bit in their behavior.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, you try, or at least look, I'll say I'll try to have as much as I don't want to say a hands-off approach, especially with regards to medicinal purposes, things like that, to just, I'm a big proponent for allowing animals to create their own, immunities, if you will,
Mhm.
as much as you can. And at the same time, I still combat things that have probably percolated, if you will, over the years from animals being in the same area, time and time again. I've definitely seen different things with our Krias now than when we first started, but at the same time, I'm always a big one to just hopefully try to build animals that have their own resistance, to things, more so than that prophylactic, let's
Yep.
deworm you, kind of every month, sort of thing. So, but everybody has a different way of doing things. So, and
Right.
I think that probably your perspective, of course, from being able to see farming internationally is amazing. Now, at the same time, I'm sure I would be aghast, right, at some of the conditions, that you might see, yet they're still fine and they're still thriving. So I think there's, something to be said for everything.
I think you hit absolutely on probably one of the huge issues of the cashmere industry. And it actually sort of goes back to the genesis of wild fibers, which was cashmere kind of comes from starving goats, right? The reason they're growing that cashmere is because there isn't a whole lot to eat out there, okay? So their bodies are in pretty poor condition. So they're growing this beautiful down coat for that protection. The second you start, feeding them 3 Big Macs a day, guess what? That quality of the cashmere, just proportionally goes right down. And it's that type of, you know, cause and effect relationship. And yes, I mean, well, to be honest with you, yeah, I'm trying to think of how many the cashmere goats I've handled they've all been in acceptable condition, because if they weren't, they're not going to survive. I will say that if they're marginalized, they're going to survive.
Right.
But you're certainly not going to find anybody that's, had a few too many, Girl Scout cookies right there.
Please, I specialize in shearing. I was going to say fat sheep, but I specialize in shearing, well-fed sheep, right? And that's really no joke. I mean, it's again the Americanization of, pets. livestock. And I say that in all due respect. Of course, Amy's on here, who who probably had a llama that also was a little too well fed, that I would shear year after year until he was no longer Murphy. I still remember him, of course. But at least I hope that's right. My
That's
memory.
right.
I hope that's serving me well.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is. It's a difficulty. We actually just had a previous guest on too, where we talked about that. Cause and effect of walking. It's like going to your grandmother's. As soon as you walked in the door, my grandmother would be like, "What do you want? Are you hungry? What would you like to eat? I have all your favorite things for you. And how do you say no?" And because that is the way that we love you, and
Right. Food is love.
love to me. And I know that so many of my customers transcend that to their animals, and it's so hard to pull back from that. And I get it. I do. But that's really, really interesting, I have to say. A lot of times when I talk about different animals and what they're being raised for, there is the, okay, you're feeding them so that you are putting on muscle because that animal's going to meet, or you're feeding them because you want the proper nutrients so that you have the adequate growth of fiber and the strength of that fiber. um, Anything in excess of that is then going to waste. But I have to say, I never thought about that other aspect of what you're saying in terms of them growing that down as a means of protection. So that definitely was an enlightenment for me.
Your body knows to prioritize what's important, and it's going to put its nutrients towards your heart, your lungs, your organs before it's going to give you a full head of hair, right? And so that fine, downy undercoat and so as a result, in this country, it has taken us 10, 20, almost 40 years of breeding what we consider to be an appropriate conditioned animal that produces fine colic, an appropriately conditioned animal that has not been at the expense of its fiber, because we have the luxury of doing selective genetic breeding, which up until the last 20 years ago, the Indian nomads were not doing.
And I want to say thank you to everybody, in the sense that this is where, like, I start to geek out, right? You know, Linda and I chatted briefly beforehand. I don't ever script this. We have a couple of things that we know we wanted to talk about, but I never know what direction it's going to go in. And it's so interesting in the sense that, yes, we're both here because of fiber, but yet the background that we both have in terms of your history of raising cashmere goats, my history in terms of, raising and breeding llamas, and animal science background. It's just also interesting. And regardless of the scientific nature of, like, what we're talking about right now, my common phrase that I say to people is, this is still your yarn. Like, so many people forget that this is where it starts. And whether it's domestic, whether it's international, because look, we're getting fibers from all different areas. For those of you that are knitters, crocheters, makers, whatever it is that you're doing with some sort of natural textile, it still starts with somebody somewhere. And it still has to be important in terms of how that animal's raised, how that animal's fed, whether it's the genetics. I mean, just all of this stuff that goes into it. And yet it's so easy, understandably so easy to forget, right? That if you're not knitting with synthetic, all of this stuff came into play in order for you to have that yarn in your hands. And I think that's so important. I think that's the mission that I try to take forth. I mean, my mission statement is putting a face with the fiber. And so that for me, when people are, I don't care if it's my yarn, whoever's yarn, that you're just feeling something, you're understanding something, you're having an appreciation for everything, whether it's Americanized and completely over the top and completely unnecessary, or whether it's a more rustic, grassroots way of that animal being raised. It still all comes back to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's amazing. But I do want to circle back, because what I love is that, regardless of all of my years of training and everything that I know, I love being able to still learn from other people. and to go back to the Falkland, despite that it was penguins, but to go back to the merinos.
Mhm.
So Linda and I kind of came together again because I always like to find different excuses for me to be able to work with friends. And in another unique way of pivoting, as we've all had to do in recent years since COVID, I had reached out to I don't know. I think I was basically like, "What do you got that I want?"
Yeah.
Probably. It was probably something along those lines. Of course, tongue in cheek. And so lo and behold, we kind of rolled out, and so I've been able to get my hands on some of the most amazing Falkland merino. However, again, what I truly genuinely, not even like making this up for Zoom's sake, what I loved was learning about it. I mean, I know my microns, but I learned about a breed I did not know. And then also, and then I'll let you talk about it, but also what I really found interesting was, I wanted to bring something different to my community. I knew Linda would have something that other people don't have necessarily access to. That's how I got it in my hands. But then I started doing some research. And then I went back to her and I was like, okay, look, I don't understand. How am I going to explain to my people about this yarn that I got from you and why it's priced here? And this was legitimately, I'm like, you got to explain this to me. Meanwhile, I could Google Falkland wool and it's like pennies on the dollar to
Mhm.
buy a skein of yarn. And that was literally my question to you. And then so what unfolded after that was really an appreciation again for something I had no idea about. And for my lifers, you guys might remember that I did access, some of this yarn just prior to Rhinebeck. And then I also did a dye collaboration with Stephanie Jones from Asylum Fibers. So anybody, like I knew Ruth Ann is on here, she got mulled wine. Can I just tell you, name yarn, wine, anything, people buy it immediately. I'm just kidding, but it really did. It really did. It was beautiful colors, and we came up with this whole fall theme. And anyway, all of it is gone except I do still have bobbin for apples. That was kind of where it all catapulted. So we do still have that in stock. And it all honestly went so quickly because I had such a small, like curated amount that so bless her, reached back to Linda and I'm like, can you give me any more? I'm like, that was really lovely. It was also very dangerous. It is so delicate and so soft. It's like having babies hanging on my yarn stand. I mean, just amazing. And even in its purest, whitest form, which you can talk about, which I'm so excited to learn about. So anyway, I have more in my hands. So we are fully stocked again with both the 100% and then also the wool silk blend. But I will also give my lifers a heads up that we have a dye collab dropping later in the 12 days of Christmas. So I did take some more of this luscious yarn and have it dyed again. So I'm excited for Linda to share everything that I learned about it. Just because I love learning and it was amazing and it's been really fun to pass it on to people. So I'd love for you to share what you taught me.
You need to call it thin mint yarn. Forget to heck with naming it after the wines. We're gonna call it Girl Scout cookie yarn,
Oh, just
okay?
you know what? No, wait, hold. You just honestly gave me a brilliant idea. So, guys, my next batch of yarns, I'm not joking. Everyone knows me. We're gonna do a Girl Scout cookie edition. I'm
Wouldn't
gonna
that
reach
be
out to
great?
one of my dyers, and we're gonna seriously writing it down. Look, I clipboard just in case if you ever see me looking down, it's because I
You're
am.
welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yes, you can have a percentage of my sales. No, 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 no. I'll just
No,
feed you my Girl Scout cookies.
I think, I'm really sensitive to the fact that some people on here are not, as geeked out as Tabitha and I are about this subject. And yet at the same time, isn't that what makes any topic interesting is when you go down, more than just scrape off the top layer and you go, wow, there really is a reason to, you know, whether or not it's coffees, whether or not it's bananas, your wine or your cashmere. there's a whole backstory, behind it. And
I only have to interrupt you just to say this. I already know with 100% certainty because usually the people that I bring to this program in particular that are off the beaten path, as I call it, when we diverge, not necessarily yarn related. I mean, this is more so the people, at least in my community, we're all creative. We're all interested. We all want to learn, hands down. Even though the attendance might be lower, those are the sessions, the conversations, the interviews that I get the most feedback about when people are learning totally something new. So I have all the confidence in the world that that is what people want. We all want to learn.
right, right. Well, in the case of the Falkland yarn, where, as I say, when I, all right, yes, the penguins are part of why I went down there.
And this is also where our series started. So I do need to also say that it leads into that because I was so geeked out about the yarn. I was like, we need to do another series. And then she's like, well, I could do a lecture on the Falkland. I'm like, no, we need to do more. So I basically made her just pull this out of her hat like a rabbit. And that's where the series all came from, too. So if you like all of this, that's where we're going to diverge into it more. Okay, now I'm done.
You sure?
Positive.
Part of what fascinated me about Falkland wool was not just the staggering statistics of, 500,000 sheep and 3,000 people, but understanding that those sheep literally have had no genetic management. That they are the traditional rule in farming, broadly speaking, is that you can put four sheep on 1 acre of land. So if you have 20 acres, that means you can raise 80 sheep. The Falklands have such lousy natural resources that it's the complete opposite. It takes 4 acres to feed one sheep. And because of that, now people in the Falklands still, there are 748 islands in the Falklands. 748, right? God, there should be waterfront property for me there somewhere. But because they have all of this vast amount of space, but it's not really profitable, they were never incentivized to improve the quality of the wool. It was strictly a meat animal. They looked into having an abattoir in the Falklands. It wasn't financially feasible. And about 2000 or so, a man by the name of Alan Savory, he's actually originally from Zimbabwe, has done a tremendous amount of work in how to restore land that has been depleted. It's originally done with elephants, was brought in and said, with just a little bit of effort here, you have great potential with this wool because you have no trees, you have no shrubs, you have none of the stuff that gets into the wool that creates what we call the dreaded VM, vegetable matter, which is part of what disintegrates the color of the wool in the processing as they go to carbonize it. That was sort of that first bullet point. Then the second bullet point was, and it's extraordinary. We only work with, I say we, the man I was with, only works with about 7 farmers. Now, 7 farmers means, 30,000 sheep easily. But sheep genetics turn pretty darn quickly too. By bringing in the South African Duni Merino, they were able to breed with their standard Merino to not only get the micron down to 18 and a half. This goes right back to our conversation about if you feed them too well, it coarsens their fiber, okay? They're not getting fed very well because they've got to travel over 4 acres for a meal, right? So they're naturally not going to have as coarse a fiber. 18 and a half micron merino is an amazing statistic. And on top of that, because of the topography of the land, once you harvest the fleece, for the most part, they are stunningly clean because you don't have all of that stuff VM stuck in there. Those are two of the straight off the bat simple reasons why. Now, there is if I'm only talking about dealing with, 30,000 sheep out of a 500,000, that explains why the bulk of Falkland wool out there is from the way who've just sort of been raising it the way they have. And it's a very much a, yeah, I don't want to say it's a sideline, it's certainly their main income, but the focus isn't on the wool. Does that make sense?
It does. And actually, again, when you had mentioned to me, now I know you did use the word organic, but in the sense of, and I forget, I don't think that was in the sense of the processing. I think it was in the sense of the lack of dilution of the breed.
No, I'm talking about that they're not on any ground that's fertilized, any of
Okay.
that. Nope.
And then I actually didn't realize, so what I'm learning from what you just said now, I wasn't aware that the reason why their fleece was so white was because of the absence of absolutely anything to, as you were saying, either oxidizing or affecting it in the process. Or is it a combination of just the genetics as well? And the reason why I ask is because, for instance, amongst my fiber people, when we make a white yarn out of natural white fiber, usually I will literally say, this is as white as real white gets, until I saw yours. Because outside of that, what I want to remind people, and if you're not a knitter, perhaps you don't know, if you go and buy white yarn, more than likely it has been
Yeah,
bleached to
exactly.
make it white. So when I arrived on the scene, back in 2000, 2001, starting to do all these big yarn shows before small farms were really out there, people were aghast that I had yarns on the shelf that were natural. Like, what do you mean? It was not even a thought to me that people would dye something to make it look white, or they would dye it to make it be a solid black. I just didn't understand that. So I guess I didn't really realize the correlation between stuff being in it, the processing, as well as a combination of genetics.
And also, these sheep are grazing on one of the windiest places on the planet, and there's this 24/7 saltwater breeze that sort of constantly, it would feel like getting a facial like every 6 hours. Do you know what I mean? That helps to keep it constantly moving through the fiber. And so cleaner stuff going in means the less you have to, use detergent and other harsher means to bring it up to that quality of white. And no place else can you replicate that, with the exception of those prized, sheep that um, not Luigi Piacenza. I can't think of the big Italian's name. The sheep that they keep, inside year round, in this climate controlled shed, to produce that 14 micron fleece. Well, those aren't real sheep, That's just, no, I don't, that's not fiber I want to be using. All they
And
do.
I've never even heard of that. So that's, I mean, it's interesting
Oh,
in itself, of which I do agree. That's also not real. That's like hothouse. It's like hothouse tomatoes. It's like hothouse sheep. So
Laura Piana. That was the name, Laura Piana, right?
interesting.
You
Okay.
don't know about Laura? Every year, Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Google it. It's the most expensive bale of wool ever sold at auction is from Laura Piana's, using the word loosely, farm, where, he's breeding these super sheep so he can sell a sweater for $8,000. Yeah.
Amazing. No, I really had no idea. I'd never heard of it. So, and again, I don't call that farming. I don't call that real. So I definitely agree with you. That definitely seems more like chemical or mechanized in that sense. So either way, I mean, again, and the reason why we wanted to just kind of touch on it is to say this is a bit of a prelude, if you will, to our lecture series that we've put together, of which the Falkland Islands is a feature, not only about the penguins, but of course about the sheep as well. And again, tying into the things that I've been able to get from Linda which I've so enjoyed being able to work with, being able to share with people, and being able to learn about myself. And at the same time, yes, GMO sheep. I see Beth and G. That's perfect
Yep.
way to describe it. Absolutely, thank you for that. I think one of the other things that I wanted to touch on, as we try not to make this 3,000 hours of which I could talk to you endlessly. I could talk to myself endlessly, but I am gracious for the donation that you've made to the basket. You and I talk a lot, and I'm going to take the luxury to share this in the sense that, and I've said this with other guests, I think so often you started out the program by saying that it is a rarity in a sense of people that completely sustain themselves off of a life of fiber, if you will.
Mhm.
Even myself, in terms of breeding and raising llamas, there's really few people out there that can say they do it as their full-time job. Now, mind you, mine is a diversity, which of course it has to be in order to make it all work. But I am farming full-time and only subsidizing it slightly with a little bit of my fun money, as I call it, from working as a vet tech with college students. So it's still all related. Either way, I think all too often people forget that this is what we do, even though it's fun and enjoyable. And we rely so much on the support of everybody to allow us to share what we love, because that in turn just allows us to continue doing what we love. So again, it's that symbiotic relationship, just the same as when people come to my farm, when people came to your farm, except for Dick Button, who wasn't quite so enchanted. So we'll let that go. But usually, when people come to my farm, it's their enthusiasm, it's their energy of being there, it's the people's energy of being here that literally feeds me to want to continue doing it. Because let's be real, most days, getting up and doing the same thing over and over again, especially when the weather conditions are not ideal and you have animals to care for, and there's good parts of farming and bad parts of farming, it's still a job. So for me, I do this for the people. I do it for the people that enjoy every single little bit of what we do. And what you have done in terms of pivoting in this crazy world that we're in, all of us were affected by COVID. Many people like you dramatically affected by COVID, in which travel was your mainstay. And so out of that, being able to continue to share your stories, your pictures, and albeit you say these are ones you've never been shared, one, I don't think anybody cares, and two, I don't know if anybody would really know. But either way, there's so much untold out there, and then you also are bringing that to us in what you call the Sunday read. And so, I want to give you the opportunity to let people know about how they can stay connected with you before we, wrap up things tonight, and let them know about the Sunday read. Now, I get your newsletter, and then there's yet another part of which people can join on. And of course, we've got a 6-month subscription that you've donated for the basket. And for those of you that jumped on early, I was quick. I had homework. I was told that I had to make sure. And it's not that I didn't want to read it, but I've been very busy juggling this every night, a 16-year-old, animals, life. I'm not a mom by trade on an everyday basis. So kudos to everybody who has been. So I quick read over it, and I don't know, you're just your wit and your ability to tell a story in words, as well as in person, is amazing. So I'm not really sure what part of it I should give up or what I'm supposed to say, but I do know I was like reading through it, hanging, to just, because with you there's always a cliffhanger. There's always that. It's like on social media, right? When you see something and then you use the GIF of wait till the end. You always have to wait till the end for Linda Cortright stories. You do.
I don't know if I've ever I think that's good. I'm
It's
not sure if it,
absolutely good because all of the stuff in between is so interesting and comical and witty, but you know you're just going through it and you're like, there's a punchline, there's a punchline, there's a punchline. And then there always is.
yeah, but Tabitha, I'll say this. Um, People think that I love to travel. And it's true, I like to travel, but I love to write. And and for me, following COVID when, before COVID, my schedule was planned 2 years in advance. That is absolutely, I was,
Well,
in
you
terms
told
of the
me that to make every magazine, it took 3 years worth
three
of.
con, right, it was
I
three.
remember that. Yeah.
And so, and first year of COVID, second year, I mean, and it was just, yeah, let's just not revisit that chapter. But so when I talk, do I love to travel? Yeah, I'm certainly loving it a whole lot less, as are many people for obvious reasons. But I love to write. That I love the idea that I can make someone laugh. That's absolutely, a totally self-serving comment. But I love the idea that maybe I can say something that people are going to just pause and go, I had no idea, and whether or not that's the cliffhanger or whatever it is, the beauty of the Sunday read, um, one is that I'm constantly writing it. My God, I am I no sooner finish one article than I'm right into the next one. Um, but it also allows me a little bit broader, as the most recent one, which had nothing to do with fibers. Every now and then I write something because if you're a writer, you just know it's like you have to tell this story, right? It's just in there. You have to tell this story. And I had to get that story out. That was my Christmas story. But yeah, I think the Sunday read was, what I don't want to say do to replace the magazine, because I still get emails from people saying, I really miss the magazine. I go, yeah, I know, I know. What are you gonna do? Let's be adult about this.
Well,
Um,
okay, great. But with that, do you still have any? Because honestly, I haven't been on your website. Do you still have back issues for sale?
oh, wait, thankfully, precious few.
Okay.
But no, and there is, the ones that I have less than 15 copies left are at a prime price. And I would say probably all but like your issue. I'm not even sure like your issue is sold out, sold out, sold out.
I got stock.
I mean, there's just, as the saying goes, gone is gone.
No, but because I only just happened to see one person and whether or not she's still with us. But look, if somebody is totally new and does not know what wild fibers was, I will at least say the way I will describe it, hands down, and will continue to. It is the National Geographic of the fiber world.
Right.
Best way I can describe it. End of
Yeah,
story.
and I think the Sunday read certainly picks up on that, still same pictures, same person doing the writing, still, traipsing all over the place, just now and then, I mean, going off to Sri Lanka, last year I just come back from Sri Lanka last year under one of the most epic failures of my professional career. No, no, no fault of mine, but 30 days of, oh my God, something's got to work eventually, and it never did. It never did. Um, but that goes along with any job, right? So I
Now,
think,
I know Erin is putting up the link, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Um, the Sunday read comes out every Sunday.
oh God,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't. No, no, no. Every
Oh,
other Sunday.
oh, okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
Wait, but that's okay. Then I need to ask you this. How long, and the reason this is a loaded question, because for instance, I am not going to rival your writing capabilities, but I feel like when I do put pen to paper, I do love to write. And I'll even remember back in the day, I thought it was what I was going to do. And I remember my fourth grade English teacher, still remember Mrs. Aronow. However, it takes me too long to write. meaning I'm not good at slow jobs as I've gotten older. I labor over my words. I'll write something, I rewrite something, I can't repeat the same words. How long does it take you to write a Sunday read? Like, does it just come natural for you that it just completely flows out? Do you work it over as well? How does that work for you in your brain?
On an average 20 hours.
Okay, then I
So
don't feel so bad.
that's, and it depends upon how much research, especially, yeah, it's a lot. I will read an entire book and use one paragraph.
Okay.
So, and that's also to say that by the time it goes to press or, gets published, it's still not perfect. And I know that, and that's frustrating, but I don't have the resources to have, you know, a researcher, a copy editor, all those other things that, would, you know, put the finish on it. But that's,
I was just curious because I think that's also important for people. So every other Sunday, and people can buy a subscription. And I know I know this is going to sound sales pitchy, but I have a reason of why I'm going to circle back to why I'm asking this. So is every other Sunday people can buy a subscription? Is it a monthly subscription? Like, how do they sign
monthly. Yep,
up?
monthly.
So is it monthly and they can opt in, opt out? Do they,
Yep, yep. 4.95, and you get a free, 10-day trial period.
so
Mhm.
it's 4.95 for, two Sunday reads a month.
Sometimes more and sometimes less. But you also, and I'll just say this, there are varying levels of subscriptions and they come with certain discounts, et cetera, et cetera. But it's on the website. And I think, and if I'm going to say this, part of the nice thing about, the series that we're getting ready to do is it's all stuff that hasn't been in the Sunday read. And it's also a really different look, kind of very different look at this 20 years and the way I've, one of the special or one of the programs is called, Mary Had a Little Lamb and She Carried an Axe. And it's all about the role sheep have played in war. Like, it's fascinating. Just, all of you people who are knitting, there is so much history in your hands. That's what makes wild fibers so extraordinary for me. That's where my real passion comes from, being able to share it.
Well, and I know you won't say this, so I will. This goes back to and where I was leading up to, of course, spoon feeding you to get the information. I guess what I want to say to people, because neither of us are hard sells on anything that we do. What I think sometimes people can take for granted is that little 4.95, which is like half of a cup of Starbucks coffee. At least the way I get mine. That's all it is a month. And, I think that I just want to make sure that everybody doesn't underestimate
Mm.
how every little bit is what enables all of us to do what we do. And I don't think it's for anything other than we don't take the time to connect the dots so that people don't realize, that every 4.95 helps, and it allows us to share our gift, share what we love, but it allows us to be able to continue to do what we love, to share that gift. So I just wanted to say that because look, I'll be the first one to tell you, and of course I will get off of this right now and I will make sure I subscribe. I love you dearly, but I am guilty of it as well. Now, mind you, I hope I have some bonus points or some credit that I've managed to like cultivate these lecture series that we've done, which have helped both of us. But I am equally guilty and I'm so, so sorry. And I'll be the first. Sometimes we have to ask. In my boxing terms, you're only going to laugh and then I'll let you go again. I listen to this business podcast and it's like jab, 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 right hook, right? So we jab, 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 jab. And then, sometimes we got to give them the right hook. And you can right hook me and I'll make sure I get my little sign on there. So,
I understand that you go to Starbucks, but I just need to keep it back to the theme. How much is a box of Girl Scout cookies?
I was like, where is she going? She didn't like my boxing reference. I'm like, come on, I'm trying to be witty.
Let's just put this all in terms that I'm going to equate it to
Honestly,
now.
I honestly have no idea. What are they up to these days?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
But money well spent. Money well spent.
No, you know what I call it? I call it sabotage because you know who buys it? Not me. It's the hubby who comes home thinking he's done a good deed and throws a box of Samoas in my freezer, of which then I eat them all in one night, and then I'm just mad at him. So it doesn't work. So I have no idea. I haven't bought them because I won't do it. I try to be good, but I appreciate it. So either way, whether it's a box of Girl Scout cookies, whether it's a half of a Starbucks coffee, please, guys, if you're not subscribing to Sunday Read, because the I don't know what part you want, because I do diligently did my homework and I read the Christmas story that was, you know, a divergence from fiber. And honestly, I don't want to tell you where I thought it was going to go. It didn't go where I thought it was going to go, but I still thought it was super funny. And it was all about being a spinster and making fruitcakes, and the person that you were named after, although your parents told you you weren't named after anybody, and then you found out you were, and like I can only just imagine.
I have a question. So I can see we're getting ready to wind down. Does anybody here
To wind down.
know what the origin of Girl Scout cookies is?
Wait. Okay, does anybody see? I'm like, we're just. If you think I'm the one that this just derails from all the time, where do you mean the origin of like where it started?
Who in the Girl Scouts said, "I've got an idea"? No, I'm serious. This is my job as a journalist. This is what you do. You always ask
Okay, the
questions.
next Sunday read better include Girl Scout cookies. That's all I gotta say.
Not a problem. No, it's something to ponder. It's one of those things we take for granted, right? It isn't the whole thing about like, well,
It
haven't
was
the
a
Girl Scouts
fundraiser,
always
right?
sold cookies?
It was a fundraiser, and you know, like you think like, okay, somebody was like, people love cookies, just like people love wine. Maybe because they were kids, they couldn't sell wine. I don't know.
No, actually, it started off with them selling wine. That's probably how the Girl Scout cookies came about. The mothers all got together. They said, let's sell some wine. We'll make some wine. We'll sell it. We'll have the kids sell it. It backfired big time. Someone said, yeah, we need to stick to cookies.
It was, oh, all
All right.
right.
Well, the chat
Okay,
is
so
informing us that it was a
like Patty, who I thought checked out a while ago, Patty just jumped in and said it was a fundraiser and started out with homemade cookies, which sounds like a more normal answer than either of the two of us came up with. But I will still concur that they were probably doing homemade cookies, drinking wine in the background.
I'm ready to start a rumor. I don't know about you. I'm happy
But
to give
you know
this
what?
one.
I am going to be that dork that we're going to get off of this and I'm going to be Googling it, or I'm going to be asking AI, ChatGPT, whatever it is that we use these days. I'm going to find out for sure. And, you know, if you guys thought you signed on to hear about all sorts of things fiber, look what you've learned. Look what you've learned. Look what we have done. We just create curiosity across the board. So, Patty's like, I did jump off and I jumped back on. You couldn't stay away. You couldn't stay away. So, I mean, we're not, all right, look, I could never end. I could do this forever. The one thing I do want to do before we lose too many people, the one thing I failed to mention, I don't know if I did in the beginning, I did, I think. You had to be here till the end in order to potentially win a $20 store credit to shop with us at Life. It's just a fun giveaway that we do every night. Now, the other thing I know I didn't mention, because I was trying to be brief, which never works to my advantage, is that if you join us again on January 6th, we do an after party. So I have 11 nights of guests, and then the 12th night is an after party. And that really is just a bunch of fun. And what I also do is that every guest, I try to come up with a trivia question, which is why, again, if you ever see me looking down, it's because I've got my trusty little clipboard here and I am making notes. Actually, it's even my old gala clipboard from my llama conferences, Linda. So I make notes because with each guest, I try to come up with a trivia question that is somewhat difficult, that you would have to actually be listening, participating. And then we do tangible giveaway gifts that we mail out to you as part of the fun, just as part of the 12 Days of Christmas. So the one thing for tonight, so Linda, it says 35. That means there's 33 of us that are still on. Now, mind you, we started, but it is New Year's Eve, so maybe people had to sign on, sign off to go party the night away. That's okay. We'll let them go. But out of 33, I need you to pick a number from 1 to 33. And then I have no other fancy way of doing this. I literally will scroll down and I will pick somebody who is in our participation list. And then they are going to get a $20 store credit to shop with us. So what's your favorite number?
I'm not going to go with my favorite number. The number for tonight is going to be 25 because we're almost going to have to start remember to write 25, not 24.
Look at you thinking about that. All right. Well, you guys all got to hold. Unless does anybody want to do 33 minus 25? I can't do math in my head.
8.
Okay, thanks. Me. Brainiac. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right. Now, actually, let me see. Okay. I was going to say, so actually, I do know this person. Ruth Ann Dingwell. So, I mean, I will admit, just so you guys know, just so everybody knows I'm being honest, in my heart, I wanted it to be somebody from Linda's platform, somebody who's not been with us before, just to be like, welcome and congratulations. But I legitimately just count based on my participant list. So Ruth Ann is a huge lifer of mine and has participated in all of our programs in your program last year. So Ruth Ann is our winner. So she's going to get a $20 store credit after, ma'am, after the 12 days of Christmas. It goes into your credit. So congratulations to that. Before we do start to lose anybody else, I do just want to remind everybody of a couple of things. Don't forget, and I know Erin's been doing a great job, TDOC 2450. That is your discount to my skincare line. Everything else is regular price. Please take advantage of that from now until January 6th, the end of it. So I'll remind you again at the after party. For anybody who is here, if you've missed our previous sessions, if you've enjoyed this banter, if it's not too much for you, you can go ahead to my YouTube channel. You can watch many of my other guests. Again, all of them interesting content, varied, fiber related, non-fiber related, just this same kind of vibe. And if you've enjoyed this evening and you want to continue to join us, we've got a great lineup moving forward. I have a mill owner, I have an indie dyer. I'm trying to remember who's on my lineup because I didn't keep that in front of me, but you can always be sure to follow me on my social media, Long Island Yarn and Farm. On my stories, I will constantly be posting who's next up. I will constantly be posting links that you can join in on it to make it easy for you, just because I want to have people join us and have fun. That's really the main goal. But at the same time, don't forget, if you want to get in for the keepsake basket, for every $10 that you spend with us this week, you get one ticket that goes in for the drawing on January 6th. And like lottery, you got to be in it to win it, and it only takes one. I don't know what happened. I know people were running out for some like mega bucks or something the other night. Somebody was telling me. I don't know. I don't play lottery. Do you, Linda?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, me neither. I just didn't grow up with that. But I know a lot of people do. So if you want to be in it to win it, you got to play. So either way, I just enjoy so much being able to bring this platform to you guys. And again, I want to remind you about the lecture series that Linda and I have put forth. I know I saw in the chat people were asking about the dates. We tried to shake it up a little bit because I know people are available on different evenings. We're doing one a month like we did last time. And my memory is not going to come to me because, of course, I did not totally come prepared. But our first one is going to kick off pretty much immediately right after this. Do you remember, Linda?
2 weeks from tonight.
All right, there we go. And that is going to be also right on the eve of me leaving for Vogue Knitting Live in New York City. So we'll be looking forward to that. And it's going to carry us into early April, which is what we did last year. And then that's going to catapult me into shearing season. So for me, it's perfect. It just kind of ramps up. You know, it's wintertime. We're all in, we're huddling in, staying warm, doing lots of knitting or doing indoor things. So what better than to grab a cup of coffee, grab a cocktail, you know, be all snuggly in your PJs and enjoy some really exciting stuff, you know, from Linda, of which I promise she really does take the lead. I do introductions and then I mute myself. I swear I do. And then I just sit back and relax and enjoy. So it truly is entirely her program. I am just the facilitator, but very honored to do that. So you can find that on my website. Of course, she is compensated for her time. I'm just the one that administratively handles everything. We will make sure you get all your links and everything you need to know to be able to join us. So I'm happy to be able to do that with her again this year. So, with that, I think that was all my housekeeping kind of stuff. I mean, again, guys, we talked about this amazing yarn that she has. Honestly don't know what you went through to get me more of it because I'm
I
thinking,
know people,
what?
you know, it's just that simple. And you know people too, you just don't know my people,
But sounds so like mob related,
right?
at least where I come from. But it wasn't stateside, was it?
No, no, no. Oh,
Right,
absolutely not.
exactly. So I made a phone call to Linda or texted, maybe. It just sounds cooler to do this. And you know, I'm like, I need more yarn. And it did not come from stateside. I did not think it did, but it came fast. So super excited to be restocked again. If you've not gotten your hands on it, if you did not touch it at Rhinebeck or the Fiber Festival of New England, if you did not grab any from the previous dye collaboration, again, we've got that in stock. And we've got it coming back to us. Well, I already have it in some really fun colors. I can't wait to show you guys. So anyway, Linda, I want to turn it back over to you. This is what I always do as we kind of, you know, wrap up. Truly, you know, I could go on and on and on, but I know also you were wanting to not share too much of what you were going to be doing in the lecture series and wanting to keep it just kind of light and fun and banter. I mean, we really didn't even dive into cashmere goats, of which I really appreciate being able to reach out to as a resource. So I will just say for anybody, you'll have to stay tuned in terms of the work that I'll be doing to add cashmere goats to my educational fiber farm. If you're not aware that that's what I have, I've only in the past had Angora goats, and unfortunately, kind of somewhat tragically, somewhat not, such as farm life. My three goats are now down to one in a very short amount of time over the past month, and taking that unfortunate opportunity to then add on yet another Angora goat. But I want to have two cashmere goats, and this has been my resource of education and connection with other people that can hopefully help me with that. So I haven't been able to put as much energy towards it as I would like, given the holidays and now all of this. But as soon as we're done, I'm going to dive right back into that. So my little Mina is not by herself. Mind you, don't feel bad about her. She's a bit of a bully, so she's doing just fine. But we still want to get her some friends, and I thank you, you know, Linda, for that, and look forward to reaching out to you more about that. But as we wrap up, I'm like, is there anything that you want to add? Anything you didn't get to say? Any of your whimsical comments that come to mind? How do you want to bring us out of 2024 and into 2025? I feel like that's loaded.
May 2024 never come back again in any form or fashion.
Oh, I
That's
know.
my commitment.
I know. And that was my 2021. I mean, not that, you know, look, I'm always looking forward to the new year for new things, but I know 2024 has been an extreme challenge for you, for sure, of which I know people do not even half understand the amount that you have persevered, because that's not what we're here for. But I will say, I wish you much more health and happiness in 2025. But in
Yeah.
addition to that,
No, in addition, I'm going to just wrap up by saying thank you, Tabitha, because my admiration for you is equal, if not in excess of what you shared. And I also want to say that it is thanks to this series that several of your people came trotting off to India with me last year. Well, not with me, that was part of the glitch, but came on my India, tour last year. And that is in many ways a large part of why there's going to be another India tour this coming up year in 2025. I see Steph's face pick up from her knitting. Her ears are
I just
going
saw her wave.
right like this. So yeah, I haven't even told it. It'll be announced tomorrow to the Wild Fibers crowd, but it is up on the website under tours. And I'm looking forward to, yeah, India is such a strong part of my heart. That's all I can say. And the fact that this program enabled me to bring some of your people along on that journey was really spectacular. So it's been a wonderful New Year's Eve. Penguins, cookies, wine. Gosh, we are one diverse group, aren't we?
Every,
Pigs, skating.
everything, all across the board. I mean, if anybody has not been entertained, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to say.
Well, it's definitely time for
Go
us.
out for New Year's Eve and try to find something better than this. That's all I gotta say.
It's definitely time. I wish I had had enough nerve to do this in my pajamas, but let me tell you, I did think about it.
Do not make any mistake. As soon as I'm done, I run into the house and I get into my comfy clothes 100%. I will say though, the trouble with doing this every evening that I have is I am dead before I start. And as soon as I start, this is literally not fueled by anything. I didn't even have caffeine coming into this. This is just my pure, as corny as it sounds, like joy, enthusiasm, excitement, the people that I get to talk to, the people that are on here, and then I can't go to sleep. Now, thankfully, tonight that will work in my advantage because I have to create some New Year's Eve gala for my 16-year-old guest. But under normal circumstances, when I want to just retire and go to bed, I can't because I'm just so amped. So this has completely rocked my schedule, but in a good way. And that's just how excited I get about being able to do this every night for everybody. So I thank you for staying with me for this, for providing all of the craziness, but really honestly, when we got down to being serious, just some really great information, insights, whether you are a fiber enthusiast or an actual knitter crocheter. I mean, everybody loves this kind of content. So I look forward to more as always.
All right. It's a plan. Happy New Year to everybody.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Happy
for
New Year,
your time.
everybody. Thank you so much for spending the evening with us. If you're watching the recording, I hope you had a wonderful New Year's as well. And I don't know how else to.
See you next year.
Yeah, exactly. See you next year. Let's all start writing 2025. All right, guys. Take care, everybody. Much love.